Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to be giving you my midterm review on this Factor Ostro VAM version 2.0. If you've followed Factor at all, you know that they came out with the Ostro VAM a few years back. It's been considered an amazing aero race bike. This is their second iteration of it. It came out this year, and that's what I'm riding. Now, as a standard disclaimer, I'm going to tell you, I did not get this bike on consideration. They didn't give me a discount. I paid for this bike myself, as I do most of the products that I review. And if I do review a product where I've either been given a discount or whatever for the review, I will let you know that at the start of the review. So let's talk through this bike, the whole bike build, how it rides, all of that stuff. First few things I'm going to do. Number one, I'm going to weigh the bike because I'm getting really sick and tired of seeing reviews of this bike or like YouTube videos of this bike, and they don't weigh it. One of the key features of this aero bike is that it's super lightweight, and then people don't freaking weigh it. Listen, you got a scale, put the bike on the scale. It takes 2 seconds. So I'm gonna give you a couple different weights on this bike just to make up for all of those people that have reviewed it and haven't weighed the freaking bike. So that's number one. Number two, we'll talk build quality of the bike. Number three, we'll talk ride quality of the bike. As part of that, we'll talk about its racing credibility. And then we'll talk finally about some of the finishing kit. This is all the positive stuff. We'll talk about all the finishing kit that comes with the bike and some of the things that I've added that are different than the stock. I will talk a little bit about the things that I don't like about the bike. You know, it wouldn't be a fair and balanced review if I didn't give you the positives and the negatives. And then I'll give you my final thoughts on the bike. So here we go. Let's start off with some weights. Okay, I'm going to weigh this a couple different ways. Again, one of my biggest pet peeves is that people don't weigh these bikes when they review them. So I'm going to get you a couple comprehensives. This is the bike with pedals, but nothing else. 16.78 pounds, 7.6 kilograms. Now, they say that this bike can get down to 6.8 kilograms. I believe that's totally possible. I believe that it can get down to 6.8 kilograms is based on a couple things. And number one is the fact that they're talking about without pedals. I think that's a little disingenuous, but you know, honestly, 16.7 pounds for a full-on aero bike that's equipped race ready, that's not bad. Just for giggles, I'm gonna actually throw on, you know, this is a heavier computer, 17 pounds with a computer. You know, so that's 7.7 kilograms. Now I can already hear some of you in the comments going, wow, that's heavy. No, it's really not. All right, let me take the pedals off. I'll weigh it, you know, as they probably intended, and then we'll see what that number shows up as. 7.3 kilograms, so noticeable difference, 400 grams difference. We're getting a lot closer to that 6.8 kilograms base weight. And truth be told, I think if I took this mount off, I would take at least another 100 grams off, maybe even more. And they're probably counting that, so that would put it down to like 7.2. Again, I'm running the heavier bar and stem combo, so that brings it down a little bit even further. And then, you know, I have this rear mount on here. The other thing that I do have on here, I have wireless blips that might contribute to 20 grams, maybe. But I won't ever live without those wireless blips. Those things are amazing. Let me do one more weight for you, and that is, I'm just going to put some Ultegra pedals on here. I'm not going to mount them. I'm just going to hang them right there. Because I think that these are popular enough pedals, the Ultegras. They're probably half of you are riding them. So this will give you an idea what the bike would be like with those Ultegra pedals in place. Okay, 7.56. So if you're running just regular pedals, 7.5 kilograms for an all-out aero bike that's race ready. The only thing that's missing is your computer. So factor that weight in, and there's your weight. This thing climbs great. So 7.5 kilograms, I think in today's world of bikes and bike weights, I think that's pretty freaking amazing, especially for an all-out aero bike. This is not the kind of middle of the road bike. This is not like, you know, Trek shifting their, you know, scales and getting rid of their aero and their lightweight and going in the middle. This is their all-out aero bike. So 7.5 kilograms, pretty freaking good. Let's talk about the build quality of this bike. I'm gonna get up and move around to kind of show you what I'm talking about here. I won't be in frame. but I'm not the important part of this review. So the build quality of this bike. First and foremost, it is light. As I mentioned when I was weighing it, it is a very lightweight bike, especially considering the incredibly deep section tubes that we're talking about here, thanks to the relaxed UCI rules about the 3-to-1 and all that stuff. So you do have a very chunky bottom bracket, you have a very chunky head tube, very wide forks, and then your top tube is, again, wide. There's a lot of material here, there's a lot of physical surface area here, and one of the things that they've done to minimize the weight is they're using thinner tubing, thinner sheets of carbon fiber. Now, at first, you might think, wow, that's really, really thin, and it is. But it's also their high tensile, their you know, ultra high-end carbon fiber. This stuff is pretty bulletproof. Not literally, don't test that out. Don't do that, don't shoot your bike. But it's pretty solid. What I notice is that it's within specific areas. And I believe that that is being done to give you that stiffness and compliance ratio. So what I notice is that vertically speaking, some of these tubes have a little bit of compliance, but laterally speaking, they're incredibly stiff. And I believe, and please feel free, if you're a materials science engineer, please feel free to correct me down in the comments, but that is likely part of the layup magic to give you that softer vertical compliance, but stiffer side to side. So you're going to get better sprinting, but also while you're on the flats, you're going to be getting a nice, smooth, kind of magic carpet-like ride, which we'll get to the ride quality in just a minute. Overall, the build quality on this thing's amazing. A couple things that I think went into the engineering of this that I really, really like. Number one, this seat post collar. The way that the seat post integrates in here and the way that you adjust it is fantastic. I wish everybody would pay attention and do it like this. This is amazing. Less likelihood of stripping out bolts, less likelihood of dropping your expansion down into this seat tube. Incredibly easy to adjust and incredibly secure because it uses both bolts. So really dig this. Also, come on, this is not a hard engineering task to undertake, the actual saddle rail adjustment. Thank you, Factor, for doing this well. I will say Specialized does a very similar mechanism. It's a single bolt adjustment. You loosen the bolt and you can slide the forward and aft, and you can adjust the tilt as well. It's very easy to do on this bike. One thing I did find is I had to put a little bit of grease into these cups to make sure that it moved freely. Other than that, beautiful. It's easy to adjust. Thank you, Factor, for coming up and using a good quality saddle adjustment point. Now, if you hear creaking, it's the bike stand. It's not the bike. There's no creaking going on this bike. Engineering tolerance on these things are fantastic. There's no carbon overhang. There's no extra little bits here and there that you're like, oh, they didn't pay attention to that. No, it's the fit and finish on it is absolutely chef's kiss. Okay, let's talk about ride quality on this bike. I'm coming from a bike that is world-renowned for its smooth and amazingly good ride quality, and that's the Bianchi Ultra XR4. Bianchi used their countervail technology within their bikes to give it a stiff but still very soft ride, and it's fantastic at that. And my fear was coming to something like this that is chunky, right? You know, these tubes are big. It is rigid. I was afraid that I was going to come to this bike and find that it was beating me up. And nothing could be farther from the truth. Somehow, and again, I believe it has to do with how they've done the carbon layup on this thing, where you've got softer, thinner bits, and you've got harder, more rigid bits in various places. You know, we have horrible roads around here in Tacoma. The ride quality on this bike is top-notch. It's absolutely smooth. You don't feel beaten up. You can do 4 or 5 hours on the bike and not feel like you just got worked over by Mike Tyson. So, excellent ride quality. I'm going to go ahead and sit back down now because, you know, I'm old and I can't bend and squat like that. Okay, so as far as snappiness, right, getting up to speed. Some bikes are fantastic at getting up to speed and super snappy, and others are not. And it tends to be, in my opinion, a trade-off. Those bikes that are super snappy tend to not hold their speed as well. Bikes that tend to hold their speed as well aren't that snappy. Usually I find that comes down to the wheels. The nice thing about these wheels, which I'll talk about in just a moment, they're light. Even with the disc rotors on, they're pretty light. So it actually gets up to speed really quickly. I will say I believe that the Bianchi felt just a touch snappier. Like it would get up to speed just a touch faster, but minimal difference. As far as holding speed, this thing holds speed unbelievably. You get this thing up to 40, 45 kilometers an hour. That's 25 to 28 miles an hour. You are going to love it. It just sits there, and you don't have to do any work to keep it there. It's amazing. So keeping it up to speed, getting it up to speed, absolutely amazing. It responds really well to power. And I think that, again, comes down to the fact that the bottom bracket is very stiff. When you push on that bottom bracket, you feel the bike immediately surge. Or when you push down on the pedals, of course, you're not pushing on the bottom bracket, hopefully. But when you push down on those pedals, you feel the bike surge. It definitely checks both of the boxes. It somehow magically gets both the snappiness but the ability to stay up to speed. I think bikes in general are getting better at doing both, but this definitely gets that, gets marks in both columns for sure. Let's talk about stability and winds. We get some winds around here. Yesterday I rode in sections. We got wind blowing through right now. Rode in at times when it was 25, 30 mile an hour gusts. And this has deep section wheels on it, and in my case I have very narrow bars. The stability of it is actually really good. I'm not going to say that it's going to be as stable as something that's got very narrow box section wheels on it, but I didn't feel like I was in jeopardy of losing my life at any point yesterday, or really any time that I've been riding in the heavier wind sections. We have the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, literally it's a 3-minute ride for me to get to the Tacoma Narrows Bridge and then cross that. And it's essentially just this wind channel that the wind comes from the west, cuts through the sound at that point, and will blow you all over the place. And I have had zero issues with this. But let's talk about crits. Let's talk about racing. Racing credibility on this bike. Will and I got the opportunity to go out to a couple of the bigger national level crits this season, including Gateway Cup, which we just got back from not that long ago. I did not have this bike for that. I was racing the Bianchi. I kind of wish I did have this bike for that, and I'll say that for a couple reasons. Number one, this bike corners better than any bike I've ever been on in my entire life. The Bianchi was very good at cornering, but it was better at a straight line. The Cannondale, the CAD 12, was excellent at cornering, but you kind of felt like you were on the edge of death at any given time. If you were railing a corner at 30 miles an hour, the bike, it definitely felt twitchy. And I don't like using those terms. I mean, twitchy is a very negative term, and I think the Cannondale was a great bike, but it was twitchy in corners. To give you an idea, I would say at least a third of the bikes that I saw at Gateway in the Masters 1-2-3s races, which, there was a number of national champions in that race, and then in the Pro 1s that Will raced, I'd say about a third of the bikes were these factor Ostro VAMs, and that speaks volumes. The pros wouldn't be racing these if they didn't, in fact, believe in them. Now, yeah, sure, there's teams that are specifically sponsored by them, and they're going to race them. They're going to race whatever they're given. But there are a lot of people that just weren't affiliated or just were on, domestic elite teams that didn't have a specific bike sponsor, and they were choosing to race these. The other bikes that I saw there were the SL8 and the Canyon Airroad. I have my own thoughts on both those bikes, but there's a reason that you're looking at this and not an SL8 and not an Airroad. So, as far as racing credibility is concerned, I haven't put it in a crit yet. I have put it in some very fast-paced group rides, and again, corners unbelievably. One quick story. The very first day I took this bike out, there's a corner I like to rail on my regular ride, left-hand sweeping corner, off camber, blind turn, 90 degrees, and slightly downhill entrance. I like to take that corner around 30 miles an hour, generally. And I said, hey, I don't know this bike very well. I'm gonna take it a little bit easy on this corner this time. And then I looked down at my speedometer, or my bike computer, as I'm going through the turn, and I realized I'm doing 34 miles an hour. So I was actually taking it easy, but wound up going 4 miles an hour faster through the turn, and it felt like I was doing it slower than I was on the Bianchi. And again, the Bianchi's no slouch. This thing corners unbelievably well. You just feel like a superhero when you're cornering on this thing. So, awesome. Love it. Okay, let's talk a little bit about finishing kit, and then we'll get on to the things that I don't like about it. The bike does come with, and to me, I'm just going to throw this out here. This is a $10,000 bike. $11,000 bike. But I think it is probably one of the best value bikes on the market right now. And that's because, number one, I can customize everything on this bike, and I did. And by the way, not only did I customize everything on the bike, they actually shipped it to me faster than they said they would, and it arrived beautifully packaged. So, as far as I'm concerned, you know, if I were to go with like an SL8, and I said, you know, I want 36 bars, they'd say, cool, we'll sell those to you for an extra $400. You're on your own for selling the other ones back, but we'll sell those to you for $400. Oh, I would like 170 millimeter cranks. Yeah, cool, we'll sell those to you too, but you got to buy those from SRAM or Shimano, and then you can just sell the other ones. That's your problem. Oh, I want a different offset seat post. Same story. With Canyon, if I said I want narrower bars, you're like, cool, we have bars that adjust width-wise. Cool, I want 36s. Oh, ours don't go to 36. You're on your own. Well, can I buy extra bars? No actual third-party bars fit our setup. So just take what we give you. Oh, I'd like a longer stem. No, we don't offer longer stems for that bike. Sorry. It's dumb. So for $11,000, I was able to customize everything on this. And let me just tell you, I did get the SRAM Red AXS group set. Amazing. The bars that I got, you'll notice that there's a couple bolts on the top, or 4 bolts on the top. That's because I did get the bars that allow you to add air extensions. I'm not a triathlete, but when I travel to out-of-state races, Valley of the Sun, for example, you can bring a time trial rig. That's going to cost me like $400 extra just to get a time trial rig out there. I don't want to do that. I don't have the money to do that. I don't have the patience to do that. I can slap aero bars on this thing, and this bike is fast as an aero bike. Okay, so I was able to customize the width and the length of the stem, so width of the bars and the length of the stem, and I did. Chose the group set, chose the wheels, although the wheels, you know, the 48/58s, they're fantastic wheels. In fact, these are some of my favorite wheels that I've ever seen or owned ever, and I've had some extremely high-end wheels. Love these. It does come with 2 bottle cages. You will notice that I've got an Arundel bottle cage on the front here. I just kind of like it better. The bottle cage that comes with it is an aero bottle cage. It mates up with the frame, lines up perfectly. That's cool. I like my Arundels. So my Arundel's on the front, theirs is on the back, but their front bottle cage comes with it. So you don't have to spend the extra money. You do get to choose whether you have an offset seat post or a straight seat post. I chose offset. I kind of wish I didn't, but I can fix that. And then you get to choose your crank arm length. And they offer every single crank arm length there is. Now, the one thing I wish I could have customized, and I did ask, was if I could do it without a power meter, because they ship with a power meter for the red AXS group set. I don't want a power meter because I use power pedals, and it just adds unnecessary weight, but the answer is no. They only offer it with a power meter, so take it for what it's worth. And then other than that, the only thing that is pictured on this bike that is different than stock are the tires. The tires that this bike ships with are the Goodyear tires, and they're tube type tires, and I choose to go with a tubeless setup, and I really like the Pirellis. They're amazing tires, so I did switch this over. However, the bike did ship with tubeless tape to tape your rims. Awesome. Shipped with tubeless valve stems, although I put my own in. These are my Amazon special, so you don't get the blue ones, you get plain black, but they look good. They work. So there's your finishing kit. Now, let's move on to the least popular part of the conversation, the things I don't like about this bike. I didn't care for the bottle cages. I swapped out the front for the Arundel, and I've seen a lot of people do that. I think it's great that they ship it with a great bottle cage, but the Arundels are lighter, they grip the bottles better, and to me, actually, I heard the bottle cage making some noise, like it would bump against the frame on heavy hits, and it would make a noise, and I just don't like, I like my bikes to be dead silent, so swapped out the bottle cages. No big deal, all right? Tires that came with it, I think it's silly that they're shipping it with the tube type tires at this point. I'm a recent convert to tubeless, and I'll have a video about that too, but I'm a recent convert to tubeless, and come on, like, put a 30 mil tubeless on it. They put a 28 mil tube type. I do believe 30 mils are the best tire to go with on these particular wheels. The 28s blow up to 29.5, and I think 30s are going to just be a little bit better. I do think, it says you can fit 32s in here. I think you could probably fit a little bit bigger. And then here's a weird criticism about this bike, okay? This is, you're either gonna not care or you're gonna be like, oh, I gotta go with a different paint job. The paint job on this, now, I have a love-hate relationship with the paint job on this. It is drop-dead gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous. And it is as subtle as it gets. The carbon in here, the natural raw carbon that I get to see, it almost looks like a forged carbon like you see on a Lamborghini and stuff like that. It looks premium, top-notch. The only downside, can you see on here that it says factor? That it says VAM right here, that it says Ostro right here? You may not be able to. In fact, the only marking that you can probably see that says factor is right here. It's very, very subtle. Now, some people love that. And I do. I really, really do. It's just a little too subtle. If they could amp this up by 10% so that, like, in the right light it just popped, I would love it. I mean, I would be head over heels in love with it. I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. It's just so subtle. I can't lie. Every single time I've taken this bike out, people will go, what bike is that? That is awesome looking. Yeah, it is awesome looking. And it says it right here. But you can't tell. So they do have many different paint options, full custom if you want to, partial custom if you want to, or they have like 4 or 5 different stock paints, which all look fantastic. Their paint work on this is top notch. But man, I just wish this were 10% less subtle, right? Just a little bit. So people are like, oh, nice factor. Instead they're like, hey, that's a cool looking bike. What is it? I guess it's a good conversation starter, but whatever. Okay. Final thoughts on this bike. Should you buy one? Well, are you looking for a super high-end bike? And I mean super high-end because this is not cheap. If you're looking for a Cervelo S5 or an R5, or are you looking for an SL8, like an S-Works SL8, or the top-end SL8 that's not an S-Works? Are you looking at the CFR Canyon? Are you looking at, those types of bikes? Because if you are, then this is a no-brainer. You're hard-pressed to find the premium halo bike in any manufacturer that has Dura Ace or Red at this price point. You won't find it, in fact. Canyon, yes, but I have a big issue with the fact that you can't replace a lot of their parts with anything but their parts, and that drives me nuts. There's nothing proprietary on here. If you want to replace parts, replace the parts. $11,000, give or take, fully stocked with this bike, compared to $14,000 to $17,000 for the similar Specialized or Trek, $10,000 for the equivalent Canyon, which again you can't swap parts on and has inferior wheels to this. You just can't. You can't touch it. Cervelo S5, $13,000. That was the other bike I was looking at, was the Cervelo S5. $13,000 to start. This is under 11. So, is it a good bike? Yeah, I mean, if you're in that price point, yes, it is. It's a fantastic bike. Is it worth $11,000? In my opinion, hell yes, it's worth $11,000. This is the first bike that I've truly paid full price for. Honest to God, I've never paid full price for a bike before in my entire life, and I don't regret this one bit. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's an 11, almost all the way across the board. The 2 minor quibbles that I have, bottle cage, meh, and the tires. But, I mean, come on. That's such a subtle, minor thing. So, there's my review of the Factor Ostro VAM. Could you buy it with the SRAM Force Group set and save a few $1,000s? Yes, you could. It'd be a few 100 grams heavier, and honestly, I don't think you're going to notice it. If you want to buy it in the full spec, do it. It's that good of a bike. I don't think you're going to regret it. There are my thoughts. If you have any questions about this bike, if you want to see it in person, let me know. I mean, I'll do a group ride with you if you're in the area, or if I'm in your area, I'll let you try it if you want to. So there it is. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think I'm crazy for dropping 11 grand on a bike? Maybe I am. Like I said, it's the first bike I've ever paid full price for, so whatever. So again, thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate you guys taking a look at this video. I know it's a little bit long-winded, but to be honest with you, I think if you're dropping 11 grand on a bike, you deserve to hear everything about it and see everything about it. So thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching the video. I would appreciate a like and a thumbs up and all that stuff. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. Let me know what kind of videos you want to see. I'm happy to focus on some of those. Again, thanks for stopping by, and I will see you in the next video.